Hi guys, so today I want to talk briefly about the decision of going to college. Maybe you're in school right now, maybe you're planning to go, maybe you have friends or kids that you're planning to send to school at some point. It's a really big decision, and I think a lot of people don't put enough actual deliberate thought into making that decision, partly because society kind of just pushes you into it. I dropped out of college. I can name a lot of other people that also dropped out of college that seem to have made it pretty well. Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, Tiger Woods, Bill Gates. And I want to walk through the logic of my decision making, why I chose to drop out. I'm not trying to coax anybody in any direction. I just want to walk through my own decisions, and then hopefully you can make a slightly more informed decision for yourself. Some people will have to go to college, of course. Lawyers, engineers, researchers, scientists. These are people that don't really have a choice, so this video probably doesn't apply to you very much. I think if you know that you want to go down those routes, of course, go to school, do that. But a lot of people are not so sure. A lot of people want a good career, they want an interesting life, they want to kind of explore different things. And for people like that, which I think is the vast majority, don't necessarily feel that you have to go to college. So to evaluate going to college or not going to college, you have to consider college versus all other possible paths that you could take. So to kind of quantify what are those different paths, you have to look at what are the axes that you're actually looking at. What are you measuring between those different paths? For me, college really does three things. There's like three goals that I would try to reach. First is money. So like earning more money in a job that, just in a job that pays more after you go to school. The second is just learning skills, learning things that are not necessarily related to jobs, but that are still useful just as a human being. Then the third is being around other people your own age, being social, going to parties, right? Meeting girls. These are important things. And for me, those were really the three reasons to go to school. And then you have to ask yourself, is college, out of all the other possible paths, is that the best one to reach those three goals? Now, the first axis, money and jobs, right? Disclaimer, this is for the US where tuitions are extremely expensive, but kind of in other countries like Germany, where a lot of my cousins live, the conversation is very different because college is free, so we're going to stay away from that. But in the US, this is kind of the situation. The ROI equation just does not make sense anymore at all. So to give you an example, there's the game of life, that board game, right? At the very start of the game, you have an option. Either you start working immediately, where you can start earning wage and you just get on the field and start playing. But the other option is you go to school, and then you have to, I think, sit out for a couple turns until you can get a job and start earning money and start progressing through the track of life, right? And this is kind of the duality that they set up. And if you go to college, you have a higher potential to earn. You have more jobs are accessible to you versus not going to school. And to put some numbers behind this, the average cost of going to school is, of course, 4 years of your time. Then the direct cost, the actual tuition costs for a 4-year bachelor in-state public school in the US is about $100,000. Then for out-of-state public, it's about $180,000. And then for private schools, it's $220,000. So that's the direct cost. But what a lot of people forget is the opportunity cost. So the cost that you incur by not doing other things. So working for 4 years. So if you, right out of high school, decided, okay, you're going to be a trucker, something that you do not need a degree for, and you start doing that for 4 years, you're not just paying the tuition cost, but you're also paying the money that you would have earned being a trucker. So that's whatever. If you earn $45,000 a year, that's 45 times 4. So that's $180K, right? So it's $180K plus that $220,000 that you would pay for direct tuition. That's your actual cost of going. But what you can also very easily forget is that after 4 years of working, you're going to have real world job skills that a 4-year college degree graduate won't have. So if you start right after high school with a job like sales, right, and then you do that for 4 years and you really put in the time and effort to learn that skill, then after 4 years, I almost guarantee you can double or triple that earning capacity to earn 6 figures or more after 4 years versus the college graduate who might have a higher entry salary but just won't be at the same level as you after 4 years. And one thing that I personally also struggled with was the sunk cost fallacy. So I think a lot of students have this who who have been studying for many years, or they've already put a lot of effort in high school, to get the grades that they needed to get into the colleges they want, into the programs they want. And basically the sunk cost fallacy is that is the mindset, okay, I already put a lot of effort into reaching this goal, graduating college, and turning around now, dropping out now would just be wasting all of that. But in reality, that's a fallacy, right? Because think about it. If you're in that moment, all of your past, all that time and effort that you already spent is already spent. There's no changing it. Trying to justify what you've already done in the past is a complete, it just doesn't work. It's a waste of time. So what you have to do is forget about the past and only look in the future. So really, what's the best decision from where you are right now, today, moving forward? That's why it hurts when a lot of people say, or when you read online that, okay, this person, dropped out 2 months before graduating to pursue this business venture. And it's 2 months, why wouldn't you just finish? But in the end, if they hadn't joined a business venture at the right time, they may not have been successful in it, right? And then instead of, maybe they would graduate college if they had stayed, but then they wouldn't be part of a multi-million-dollar company. Now, the second reason a lot of people go to college is to learn things. Just learn about themselves, learn about the world, history, math, science, things that are not necessarily related to jobs. And yes, you will learn things in college. 100%. But you have to ask yourself, is that the best way of actually learning? Can you learn the fastest and enjoy learning the most by doing that? And I think the answer is no. When I was in school, I noticed that students were learning at least 60% of the things on their own through YouTube, nowadays through ChatGPT, as opposed to things that you actually get from the school. So lectures, professors, access to professors, exams, right? You're not learning from that as much as you are from just reading through the textbook and watching videos and figuring it out on your own and asking your buddies. And all of those other things that you learn the majority from is stuff you can do for free or next to it, right? And so then you realize you're actually, all the tens of thousands that you're paying is for that 10% of the learning of the lectures and then the exams and then the piece of paper at the end that tells you, yay, you did it, right? So then why not just double down on those free sources, on those sources that you're already doing anyway? And this is what I've done and a lot of my friends and founders and entrepreneurs who have also dropped out of college do. And we learn tremendously fast. And this is really the beauty of the internet and especially books. Instead of learning from some guy that grew up in Missouri that studied education and now he's a professor, you can actually learn from the greatest minds in history by reading books. You can learn philosophy from Socrates. You can learn physics from Feynman. You can learn about business from Jeff Bezos. To give you an example, if you want to learn business, don't study an MBA. Watch the Y Combinator video library on YouTube. To give you a very concrete example, if you watch those 20 videos in a weekend, I guarantee you're going to know more about starting a business than an MBA will teach you in 2 years. Then the final problem is that those school resources, right? Those 10% things that teach you 10%, the curricula, the professors, the exams, they don't update nearly fast enough. So there's a huge latency between what they're teaching and what's actually needed in the real world and on the cutting edge. So a lot of business courses and marketing courses only started teaching about social media in very recently. And they have not started teaching about shorts, for example, YouTube or Instagram shorts or reels, whereas that's what's actually at the cutting edge of social media and marketing, right? That's what's actually building brands. Let alone are they talking about things like generative AI, ChatGPT, the real cutting edge of technology, which is actually defining the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of being in the workforce. If you don't learn these things now, you're going to be outcompeted in 5 or 10 or 15 years. One thing that's crazy that I realized recently is how much universities are actually like businesses. They literally have hardcore salespeople coming to high schools trying to pitch 16 and 17-year-olds to go to their school and pay them money. And then they have these fairs which are suspiciously similar to business conferences, right? Where every table, every booth is trying to pitch you on things. And then another crazy thing is the pricing. Right? Schools, private schools will ask you for all of your financial documents. If you ask for financial aid, basically, they'll ask for your tax returns, your IRS forms, your income, everything, your crypto. And then from those, it'll determine, okay, what's the maximum amount that you can pay? And then they'll charge you that. It's the perfect example of price discrimination. It's the epitome of that. And schools will, and they do it. And the cool thing that you don't get by learning in school is exposure. So learning through exposure is probably the most powerful and also the most fun way to learn. So in business, you learn by doing things, by having sales calls, by just being in the field, talking to people, and getting it done, right? If you want to learn a language, for example, if you want to learn Spanish, why would you sit in a classroom for 4 hours a week and try to learn Spanish when you could literally, I don't know, rent an Airbnb in Costa Rica for 2 months? I was just looking earlier this morning at some places in Costa Rica, and it's like the same rent, or it's like less rent than you would pay in like a US city for like an amazing apartment in Costa Rica or something, and then just live there for a few months. Become a bartender, I don't know, walk the streets, talk to people, like learn the language, and not just the language, but how the language is being used, right? And really, like I said, exposure to the culture, the people, the actual things that are going on. That's not only the fastest and best way to learn, but it's also the most fun way to learn, right? I hate learning languages, but I would kind of enjoy learning languages if I was actually in a country where I really had to speak it and got to speak it. Look, I'm not saying that college isn't the right path for you, but I am saying that it's crazy to think that it is the only path. It's really, really dangerous to be married to like one mindset and just this one like old institution and old way of thinking that's existed for the last like hundreds and hundreds of years, right? You just have to realize that there's multiple paths through life. And when I was in high school and during my first year of college, it's hard to change and get out of that mindset because school is all you know. All you think about is when you graduate, and then like post-graduation is hard to imagine. It's like, I don't have a life outside of school. What am I going to do with all my time? Like, you have to remember that your life doesn't end like after you graduate. Like, I don't know, for some reason when I was in high school, I would think like whatever's in the yearbook, like that's who I am for the rest of my life. But that's just so not true. Like, your life is just beginning after you graduate. You're going to have infinite opportunities to reinvent yourself, to grow, to change, to try out new things. This channel is partly about showing you that there are these other options and these other paths. Parents, school, society doesn't really show you that there are other options besides school very often. I mean, a lot of my friends, when I was graduating high school, I would say 95% of them ended up going to university. That's just what you did. And it was very hard to see examples of people doing other things. There are, YouTube channels that are attacking this, but I think it's always helpful to have more and just more options and more freedom in what you can do. And yeah, an inspiration to kind of take paths that are not the traditional college route. Whatever path you choose, make the decision deliberately. I heard this quote from, I think it was Alex Hormozy: don't let people spoon feed your definition of success. So don't kind of get your definition of success from your parents, from your siblings, from your friends, from society, from social media. Try to make your own decision. And don't listen to me either, right? If this is garbage advice that you just really don't believe in, if you don't believe in it, then fine. Like, that's good. Okay, so I forgot to record an outro, but that's pretty much all for today, guys. And I will be leaving a link to an article that I wrote about the same topic that kind of goes in a little bit more depth. It has a bunch of links and examples and illustrations that will kind of dive into this topic more. If you're interested, I'll leave the link. It's my Substack, where I'm going to be posting kind of the scripts and sort of articles that are related to the videos that I post as well. So yeah, till next time.